Hello everyone, it's me again, Liam. I'm here with another video. Since a bunch of you seem to like the Spider-Man video about what if he was in The Incredibles, I thought I'd do the same thing here with Superman. So, as to which Superman this would be, I would picture this being Christopher Reeve's Superman in a way. I cannot picture the other DC heroes and villains. That would just change way too much. I will make an exception for Lois Lane, Perry White, the Kents, Jimmy Olsen, Supergirl, and his villains. Because I don't think Superman works without them. No, he doesn't. He doesn't work without them. And it would be important to keep Supergirl. It would make sense to have Supergirl be there because they're cousins. Okay? Jeez, they're cousins in the comics. Let's just move on, shall we? Skip the whole origin of Superman thing. We don't need any explaining why. It's obvious. We've seen his origin stories too many times. We don't need to see his origin again and again. Now, the events of Superman 1 and 2 wouldn't really change all that much, except maybe you could put Metroville in Metropolis instead, like move the Incredibles from Metroville and all the other heroes to Metropolis, I guess. Now, the first movie wouldn't really change all that much. Superman 2 would change a little, because I think it would be more of an Earth movie than a space movie, because, like, we hardly saw space in the first Incredibles movie. It was just one scene, and that's it. We never saw it again. That's because The Incredibles is a superhero franchise, not a sci-fi franchise. You'll get yourselves confused with something like Star Wars, or Back to the Future, or Alien. Let's just move on. Superman 3, I think that would have been the Richard Donner version. Superman 4, except Supergirl and Superman are cousins. Not that incestuous plot that we're gonna go for. I hate it. Superman 4, I think, would have still happened, but it would have been a what if Richard Donner directed Superman 4 thing, and it would basically be have Metallo as the villain. And then I think we would get Superman 5, in which it would be Superman versus Darkseid, if I'm being honest. To be honest, I think if they were to have done a Superman 5, had Richard Donner stayed, I think it would have been Superman versus Darkseid, honestly. Now, what do the other heroes think of Superman? They would be more mixed on him. And so would Supergirl. On one hand, they like him because they think he's a nice enough guy. On the other hand, they don't because he's an alien. And the fact that he has his own cousin as a sidekick, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. But they'd be more so willing to team up with him. But I think the one who would have the most rivalry with, or have a big rivalry with, is none other than Mr. Incredible. Essentially, he would always be second best to Superman. Now, what about the Super Registration Act? It would still happen. It still would. Essentially, Superman would be forced to go into hiding. Maybe even Supergirl too, but Superman, I think at this point, would end up marrying Lois Lane. But what about Supergirl? If you ask me, she would end up marrying Jimmy Olsen, because I always view the Legion. I mean, I know the Legion of Superheroes have a thing with Superman because Brainiac 5 was a member of them, but then again, The Incredibles is not about time travel. It's not sci-fi, okay? Jeez. So that's why I think Supergirl would end up marrying Jimmy Olsen. Then the events of The Incredibles happen. Now, essentially, Syndrome would come out of hiding, would be more so willing to team up with Lex Luthor and Metallo. Lex Luthor would tell Syndrome about the kryptonite, and so Syndrome would upgrade the Omni Droid with kryptonite in them. But then this begs the question. Would they try to get a Superman and Supergirl? They would most likely try to get with Superman first because he's the most well-known. He was the most well-known. But Clark would just reject this because he's not Mr. Incredible. He doesn't want to go back out there and put on his jumpsuit and ski mask. He's not that. He's done. So he would more than likely destroy the message Mirage gave him. They would try to go with Supergirl, but I think Supergirl would decline too. They then go back to Mr. Incredible, and then the movie would play out mostly the same. But I do not want Lex Luthor and Metallo to be Karma Houdinis. I think Mr. Incredible could have fought Metallo first and then the Omni Droid. I think that could have happened. And essentially what would happen to Lex Luthor, I think Syndrome would betray and kill him, honestly. I just don't see it. How Lex Luthor would have gotten in the hands of Syndrome, I don't know. Maybe he ended up marrying a ritual woman like in Superman Returns, and then he was met with Syndrome and they decided to team up, or he was in jail all this time. I don't know. Sometimes I kind of wish I had Syndrome, team up with one of Spider-Man's villains in my Spider-Man video, but that's okay. I just had no idea what to do. But afterwards, the movie would stay mostly the same up until the final battle. Rather than Frozone just helping, this would be Superman and Supergirl, because the fact that a lot of innocent people would be in danger, it's just too much for them to ignore. And they would most likely have children with their spouses at this point in time as well. And because of Superman and Supergirl, they would have the opportunity to destroy the Omnidroid a lot faster. Even though it's powered with kryptonite, so it would take them a little longer, I think, but at the same time, it would be a little faster. So it's a mix of both. Thus, the movie and the same. Incredibles 2, I think, would have been mostly the same. Like, Superman, Supergirl get recruited by Winston Dever, and so essentially you could have their children who are trained, who might want to become a part of the next generation of heroes, and then their Superman and Supergirl like they're on the boat, and the movie would pretty much go out the same. And whatever Incredibles 3 will be about, you could picture them appearing. So that's what if Superman was in The Incredibles. I've got more characters planned. Next one will be Batman. Anyways, bye.